Hello, welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Paul Britton. This is a movie discussion show, and today we've got a mega review show. That's right. I went and saw 4 movies this weekend. 4. Why are we getting 4 new movies in one weekend? That shouldn't happen, but here we are because it's award season. All of the the movies that were released in in festivals during the summer and fall have to come out sometime, and they just they start just dumping them random weekends. And so this coming weekend, I've got one nice big movie with the new Zootopia movie. This weekend I get 4, so yeah, that's all right. I don't mind because I love going to movies, so it works out for everyone. I am going to be doing the movies probably not in the order of most anticipated box office or anything like that, but rather I'm starting with the movie with the most likely to win an Oscar, and then work my way down. And I'm not counting below the line stuff. It's got to be writing, directing, acting, or best picture. So the technical stuff that Wicked for Good's going to get doesn't count because we're going straight to sentimental value. Sentimental value is the follow-up to Worst Person in the World, and it's from the director Joachim Trier, a Norwegian dude, and it stars the star from Sentimental Value, Renate Reinsve. I mispronounced that, and I apologize. But look, Sentimental Value when it came out, or not Sentimental Value, I'm sorry. Worst Person in the World when it came out in 2021 was by far my favorite movie of 2021. Norwegian film. Just blew me away when I saw it. Just blew me away, and I loved it. And it just, it was like, okay, I'm all in for this particular filmmaker. And his follow-up is Sentimental Value. I mentioned it. It stars Renate and also Stellan Skarsgård, who everybody should know. He's in a bunch of stuff. The most famously, popular movies was in Thor, and was sort of like the professor that goes crazy in Thor, in this sequel Thor. It stars Ellie Fanning, who was just recently in Predator Badlands, and I'm going to try this one, but Inga Ibsedotter Lilias, and I apologize for that if I brutaled it. But it's just, I'm bad with names, and it's a Norwegian name, and I'm not going to read it well. The movie is Stellan Skarsgård plays a famous director, famous Norwegian director, and Renate and Inga play his 2 daughters. I wouldn't go so far as to say estranged, but strained for sure. The story is really the 5th main character of the story is the house that the women grew up in and that Stellan grew up in, his ancestral home. When he leaves the family, he is the ownership of the house is transferred over to his wife. So the girls remain there, and their mother has passed away, and Stellan shows up, and they have seen him sporadically throughout the years since he left, and they're left to fend for things on their own. Renate plays a stage actress. He is a film director who looks down on the stage, just doesn't care for it. Inga is the younger daughter, and has nothing to do with the arts, although we find out that for the character is named Gustav. So for Gustav's primary, largest movie, most popular movie, the movie that that he is acclaimed for, uh, she she played the daughter. So she actually did act, but there's a really emotional scene where she confronts she confronts him about his her time on the set, and it so but the house is really the key fifth character. The house is a just super uh you know the house is the emotional center of the movie, in a movie that is one of the most emotionally difficult movies that I've seen in a long time. I mean, so look, is strained relationship with father. You're talking about a lot of emotions. You're talking about two women, grown sisters, who are dealing with the aftermath of that, dealing with the death of their mother. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot to process. And Renate plays Nora. Yes, Ibsen, Dollhouse, obvious, blatant, and totally works. Is also depressed, and so we actually are introduced to her when she is about to go on stage and has stage fright, and it becomes a huge thing to get her to go out there. But once she gets out there, she's brought back into it, and performs beautifully. But the movie is emotionally overwhelming while remaining distant, and the house, every time you're back in the house, every the house has that foundation, and you feel foundationally safe at the house, but at the same time, you also feel like, oh, I don't know how to, process everything that's going on, because, uh, you know, the house has corners and secrets, and things are happening. And so, Gustav has written a movie. He hasn't made a movie in 15 years. He's written a movie, and he wants Nora, his daughter, to be in it. And when he's not able to get Nora to be in it, Ellie Fanning playing Rachel Kemp, a very famous actress in this world, they meet at a film festival that was honoring him, and she says, I want to be in a movie with you. And so, this would be akin to Scarlett Johansson deciding, I'm gonna, which she has done. So, like, imagine the exchange that happened that brought Scarlett Johansson to Under the Skin, where it's just like super small movie, in this case international Norwegian movie, and very out of character for the things that she's done. She's a popular movie star, and this is not this wouldn't qualify, the movie that he's making. And because Nora refuses to be in it, Gustav decides to move forward with Rachel as the star. And it's everybody dealing with the emotional implications of having him here, him having to use Rachel as a stand-in for his daughter, because the movie, he says that he wrote it for his daughter, and the emotional, the sort of the little bit of scenes that you're introduced to with the movie, you realize that the movie that he's making, there are aspects of it that are akin to his wife, or his mother, I'm sorry. And one of the cool features of the movie is it hops back in time. Like anytime it's in the house, the house has a voice through a narrator, which works perfectly. And the narrator, the house, sometimes takes us back into its memories and what's happened before. And we find out that Stellan's mom had killed herself in the house. And that happens in the movie he's making, but he constantly says it's not a movie about my mother. And we kind of, as Nora is dealing with her depression, it becomes obvious that the movie really is about his daughter, and it's this movie is just an absolute treat, and it's so healthily layered and thick. Um, but and tries to stay distant while being accessible. I've never been diagnosed with clinical depression, but I'm sure I've been like clinically depressed before, but never for extended period, whatever. And but you've had anybody, I'm sure, has had that feeling of an empty house. Like what it's like to be full, but there's an emptiness now and you don't know how to fill it. The house can't fill itself, and so somebody dealing with depression might not be able to fill itself. And that's what this movie is. And it's a lot to take in. But it's fantastic and so well made. I, I struggled with where to land. Okay, so here on Real to Real Talk, instead of doing stars, we do tacos. And if we feel like something deserves a little bit of extra, instead of doing like a half a taco like you would with a half a star, we do guac. Why do we add guac? Because nobody eats a half a fucking taco. So, all right, I'm just gonna go ahead. This one's getting 4 plus guac. I've been struggling between 4 and 4 plus guac, and it might become, I might be able to explain a little bit more later, but it's so good. It's so good. I definitely prefer Worst Person in the World. It's Worst Person in the World is far more lighthearted and, while dealing with a woman that is dealing with a lot and a lot of her emotions, it's also just, more, I don't want to say accessible, but more ready to be loved. Whereas this movie is definitely just ready to present to just make you feel all the feels. So the next most likely movie to win an Oscar is Wicked for Good. And I'm not saying this because I feel like it deserves it as much, maybe not so much as I just think that there's, based on what happened with the first Wicked movie, it's set up. So here we are, Wicked for Good. So this is the follow-up to Wicked from last year, which was nominated for $500 million awards and won a whole bunch in including several Oscars. And this is the sequel. And so Wicked, the first movie, was the first act of the stage play, everything up to the intermission, and then this is everything after the intermission, plus a whole bunch of stuff, because the bit after the intermission is quite a bit shorter than the stuff before the intermission, and they felt like they needed to add 2 new songs, partially in order to pad some time to it, and also possibly partially because everybody just kind of says, yeah, the songs in the second half aren't quite as good. Full disclosure on my Wicked knowledge, I have seen the stage show. I really enjoyed the first, the everything before the intermission, and I genuinely disliked what happened after the intermission. So I'm coming into this movie like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen here, because I really didn't care for anything that goes on after the intermission. The problem with everything that goes on after the intermission is the first half really feels like a full story, and that's just kind of waiting for an ending. And the second half just feels like a bunch of vignettes of things that happen that feel semi-divorced from what happens in the first act, and trying to mesh in the goings on of a known entity, which is the Wizard of Oz, while doing absolutely nothing that happened in the Wizard of Oz, and completely demolishing, any precept, any sort of understanding of the characters from the Wizard of Oz, specifically the Ozian residents, specifically Scarecrow, Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion. the things that they do to explain these three characters' backstory in Wicked for Good is absolutely bonkers and borderline criminal. It just doesn't make sense. And it, if you're going to do a fanfic, and I hate fanfic, so also I hate fanfic, like genuinely violently react against fanfic and get annoyed when people like start talking about fanfic with me. I don't want to hear it. I'm not interested at all. Uh, and then there's this entire movie that's just basically fanfic. And it's like, if you're going to do it, like, make it make sense. Like, make it add, like, don't detract from what we know and like, don't go so far away from what's going on. Like, just add layers. Don't like make things layers up that don't make sense. This adds layers that don't make sense. I'm going to say this as an individual movie works much better than if they had tried to make the second act of the musical just as it was. I really like the movie much better than the musical. It's not saying too much. I'm not, without spoiling too much. But because like I had mentioned, I genuinely dislike the second half of the musical, but the first half just has such energy, and in this, it has energy in the storytelling. Okay, the first half of Wicked, the first Wicked movie, has a pace to the storytelling that the second half tries to make up for by telling multiple stories thinly and piecemeal. And it's difficult. I heard in another review, so somebody mentioned that part of the problem here is that during the first movie, you're watching the relationship of Elphaba and Galinda build, and the chemistry between Erivo and Ariana Grande is just magnetic and entrancing, and you just are 100% enthralled with everything that's going on between the two of them. And it comes across. And then the second act is just like them being apart and doing a whole bunch of things together, to the point where when they finally are together, it just kind of feels like, oh God, why did I have to wait this long to get here? And it's a problem. Like, it's a problem. And I don't know what the fix is. I think the fix is that you make it a single movie rather than taking a stage show that's a little over 2 hours and making a 4-hour movie out of it. You make a 2.5-hour movie, and you do the padding that you need to do in order to kind of fluff things up. You don't add any additional songs, and there are obvious flaws with the third act, if from a movie telling standpoint. And if you're talking about the stage show, it's like everything that happens after the intermission, there are obvious flaws, and you just completely redo that. And I don't think that anything is weakened by if you do that. And I think that there's enough fluff in the first movie, and that you can get that down to where you can get the rest, the entirety of the second movie into a third act. I was entertained, I was entertained, but ultimately, this ends up being two tacos plus guac. I just don't care if I ever see this again. It's just really okay. I'm glad I saw it, and I really hope it doesn't do well as Zootopia 2, no matter how much I like or dislike Zootopia 2. Next movie I'm doing is Rental Family. This is this is Brendan Fraser's sort of big follow-up to he's had a couple little smaller parts, but this is a big follow-up to his Oscar-winning role, his leading follow-up to his Oscar-winning role in The Whale. I kind of now wish he didn't win for The Whale, because this movie is just so vastly far superior to everything that's going on in The Whale, with the exception of his performance, which is just, on par. Like the Whale, his performance in The Whale is amazing, but his performance in Rental Family is also amazing. So Rental Family is about an American actor living in Japan, basically taking up the token white guy roles that are available in Japan. So if you imagine being an Arab or Arab looking actor living in Los Angeles and getting cast as terrorists in movies all the time, well, he's not getting cast as terrorists, but he is getting cast as, the American detective, and things like that. And he takes on a job working at a company where they sell experiences and sell emotions, where he'll play a guy's best friend and play video games with him. He will play uh a uh a journalist who has been hired by the daughter of an aging actor, with who's developing dementia, maybe Alzheimer's, maybe, to interview him so that he feels like he's not being forgotten, and just to make him feel good about himself, in his aging time. And the the primary role that he plays throughout this movie is that of a father for a mixed race little girl, whose mother is trying to get her into a school, and is getting rejected because the father's not around. And so now he's the father showing up, and his presence will help get her into the school. And it's just absolutely fascinating. First of all, it takes place in Tokyo. I've been to Tokyo, so it was just really fun to see all the places I was in Tokyo. Secondly, um, just 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 absolutely, a such a great story for today. Just really a great story for making connections, and turning feelings into letting you know that if you are having the feelings, then it is real, and being able to understand that reality, um, even if it sometimes is manufactured, can still produce real sentiment. And it's just beautiful. I mean, that's it. It's just absolutely beautiful movie. Um, uh, you know, it there are I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about it. Like, so here is where I'm going for tacos plus guac again, because it's not quite a five taco movie. There, you know, it, there are lulls, there are character storylines that are just dropped. But the two primary character storylines are the old man and the young girl, and those are super fulfilling. And there's just it's just really a really interesting exercise, and I really enjoyed it. I hope he's nominated for Best Actor. I would love if he won, even though I'm kind of like, I don't know that Brendan Fraser should have 2 Oscars. I but he Leo DiCaprio in One Battle After Another is going to win. So what are we even talking about? The last movie I saw was a sequel, Sisu: Road to Revenge. So Sisu came out in, I'm going to say 2022. I'm not even going to look it up to see if I'm right or wrong. And it was just just an absolute joy of a movie, because it was just this old Finnish guy fucking destroying Nazis. Some Nazis show up. and are giving him a hard time as he's just trying to work his land and be a guy who's working his land with his dog, and they're just giving him shit. And uh, and he, he's a former soldier who doesn't want to be given shit anymore and doesn't want to be part of the war anymore, but they pull him in because they are unrelenting, and he destroys Nazis. And in the sequel, we get a little bit of backstory on the main character from Sisu. Sisu is a Finnish word that it says in the intro of the movie that it's untranslatable, because but it roughly means the strength that somebody has when like how you hear the mom can lift a car if her kid's trapped under the car. It's it's the extra strength that you get when you're filled with rage. And the the yeah, and so he in the sequel we find out that while he was a soldier in the Finnish army, he fought some battles with some Russians who killed his family. Yikes. And so guess what? We got to go kill some commies. And that's what this movie is. It's just him going into Russia to because after World War II, the USSR is given parts of Finland. I really kind of need to go figure that out. And his home was on land there. And so he goes to dismantle his home so that he can rebuild his home in Finland. And on his way back, one of the Russian, a Russian colonel who was responsible, or German, no, yeah, Russian. The Russian colonel who was responsible for the death of his family has to clean up his mess because this guy is showing up on their land, in their country. And it's look, if you just want to see some authoritarians get destroyed, some commies get their heads bashed and chopped off, and other gnarly things happen to them, this is good fun, and I'm here for it. I don't know that I enjoyed this one quite as much as the first one, but because the first one has the originality, and that goes a long way. But I'm going 3 tacos. I'm going 3 tacos on it, just because I will absolutely buy this movie and rewatch it again. And I'll just do a Sisu rewatch-a-thon. Yeah, Finland is the country where I most want to be. So let's not forget that. All right. That's all I've got for you, everyone. Thanks for coming out. 4 movies in under 30 minutes, man. Good times. And I was in the theaters for way more than 30 minutes. So, obviously, movies coming out Thanksgiving weekend. Thanksgiving weekend is always a good time to go see movies. I hope you will do it. Go, pick a movie and go see it. Thanks for coming. I will be here again. Catch